I found out that my husband was planning to divorce me, so a week later I transferred my $200,000. They say when something breaks, you hear it. But when I found out my husband was planning to leave me, there was no sound. No crashing dishes. No raised voices. Just a silence so sharp it cut clean through the life I thought we had. It started with a laptop left open. We never hid passwords. That was our thing, one of those quiet agreements that felt like trust. Love, in our home, had always been soft. Gentle hands on tired shoulders. Grocery lists with smiley faces. Mismatched mugs and shared playlists. 13 years of quiet rituals. So when I walked past his office and saw the screen still glowing, I didn't think twice. I was going to close it for him. Just that. But then I saw my name in the subject line of an email. Subject, Plan, Re, Lila. Lila. That's me. It wasn't a long message. He was replying to someone I didn't know. A lawyer, I assumed. His tone was calm. Practical. If we proceed before Q3, we need to prepare for how she might react financially. She still doesn't know. I stood there, barely breathing. The cursor blinked at the end of the email. Like it was waiting for a response I'd never expected to give. That night, I didn't confront him. I couldn't. I watched him as he folded laundry. Kissed my cheek. Asked if I wanted tea. Nothing in his voice gave anything away. He didn't look at me like a man planning an exit. He looked at me like he always had, warm, familiar. And that terrified me more than the email. Because if he could love me like this and plan to leave, then what did any of it mean? I didn't sleep. I lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing. 12 inches between us in bed. 12,000 miles in my mind. I stared at the ceiling and felt something inside me begin to shift. Not break. Just, shift. The first quiet edge of something sharp. The next morning, I smiled through breakfast. I asked about his day. Packed his lunch like always. Tucked a note inside the bag, "You've got this. Love you." He kissed my forehead on his way out the door. And the second the door clicked shut, I locked it behind him and leaned against it, exhaling for what felt like the first time in hours. Then I opened my laptop. The money wasn't all in one place. Over the years, I'd saved here and there, bonuses from work, side gigs, small investments. He never asked, and I never offered more than surface details. We had joint accounts, of course. But this money, my money, had always been separate. Quiet. Private. A habit more than a plan. Now, it had a purpose. I didn't know yet what I was going to do. But I knew I needed to move it. Just in case. By Friday, I'd quietly transferred just over $200,000 into a new account under a different name. I used an LLC I'd registered 2 years earlier for a business idea I never followed through on. Now it had a reason to exist. Now I had a reason to exist, separate from him. He came home that evening with wine. Felt like a red kind of night, he said. I smiled. Perfect. We sat on the couch and watched a movie we'd seen 3 times before. He laughed in all the same places. I laughed too. And I realized then how easy it is to fake a life. To play the part. I wondered how long he'd been faking it. And I wondered who would break character first. On Saturday, he got a call and stepped into the other room. He never used to do that. It was small, seconds of privacy he'd never taken before. But now, it meant everything. I stared at the hallway where he'd disappeared, and I felt the reality click into place. He didn't love me anymore. And worse, he thought I didn't know. That night, I opened a new notebook. Not for journaling. For documentation. Dates. Details. Transactions. Patterns. His words. My words. What I saw. What I felt. Not because I was preparing for a fight. But because I needed a record of what it felt like to be betrayed so cleanly. So silently. I didn't cry. Not then. Not when I saw the email. Not when I moved the money. Not when I looked into his eyes and saw nothing but shadows of what used to be there. The tears didn't come until a week later. When he leaned in, kissed my neck, and said, "God, I love you." And meant it. Or thought he did. That's when I cried. Because even now, after everything, part of me still wanted to believe him. The morning after he said he loved me, I watched him sleep. His face looked peaceful, just slightly turned toward my side of the bed, like it always did. His mouth slightly open, the way it was every morning, his chest rising and falling in that slow, steady rhythm I knew better than my own heartbeat. It used to bring me comfort. Now, it just reminded me how easily someone can lie with their whole body. I got out of bed quietly, careful not to wake him. The floor creaked under my steps, a betrayal of its own. Downstairs, I made coffee and sat in silence, cupping the warmth with both hands like I needed the mug to keep me anchored. But no amount of heat reached me that morning. The chill I felt came from somewhere else entirely, somewhere deep, somewhere hollow. He still loved me, or at least he thought he did. And maybe that was the most terrifying part of it all. The days after that were filled with small betrayals. Not new ones, just the ones I finally noticed. The way he angled his phone when he typed. The slight delay when I asked him where he was. The offhand "don't wait up" that used to mean nothing and now echoed like a warning bell. He hadn't filed yet. I checked. I even called a lawyer's office, pretending to be someone else, just to understand what stage his planning might be at. They didn't give much away. But the woman on the other end said something that stayed with me. Most of the damage is done long before the papers are served. I started documenting. Every email. Every suspicious glance. Every shift in tone. Not to build a case against him, not yet, but because writing it down made it real. Tangible. Like I was building a record of the version of our marriage that only I seemed to see. And with every new note, I felt something in me strengthen. Resolve, maybe. A quiet kind of anger, the kind that doesn't scream or throw things, but sharpens itself in silence. I visited my sister that weekend, saying I needed a break from the house. We went to the farmer's market, like we used to before life got complicated. I bought fresh bread I didn't need, and lavender I couldn't smell. She watched me closely the whole time. "You're not okay," she said finally, as we loaded bags into her car. "No," I admitted. "But I will be." I told her, gently, carefully, about what I saw on his computer. Her eyes went wide, but she didn't interrupt. When I mentioned the money I'd moved, she exhaled slowly. "Smart," she said. "Very smart." And then, after a pause, "What are you going to do next?" I didn't answer right away. Because I wasn't sure yet. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He reached for me in his sleep, instinctively, like he'd done 1,000 times before. His hand found my shoulder and rested there. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Eventually, he turned away. I started mapping out a possible future. Not revenge, not yet. But escape. A small rental on the edge of town. A lawyer I could trust. The password to the account he didn't know existed. I started practicing lies in the mirror. Phrases like, "No, I don't have any separate assets. I'm not sure what happened with the finances. I never saw this coming." All the things women are expected to say when they're blindsided. Except I wasn't blindsided. I was preparing. One afternoon, I found a printed itinerary in his coat pocket. A weekend trip for work, but the destination was a boutique hotel, one we'd once stayed in for our anniversary. I knew then it wasn't work. I didn't cry. I just folded the paper carefully, put it back in his pocket, and added the date to my notes. When he came home that night, he brought flowers. He hadn't done that in months. "Just because," he said, with that crooked grin that used to undo me. I smiled back. "I love them," I said. "Thank you." He kissed my forehead. And for a second, I wondered if he felt guilty, if any part of him realized what he was doing to me. Or if he just wanted to soften the landing. That weekend, I transferred another $30,000 into the account. I labeled the transfer, "Consulting Income." I opened a second P.O. box. I stored physical copies of everything, statements, screenshots, receipts. I kept them in a folder tucked inside a cereal box in the pantry. No one would look there. The more I prepared, the calmer I felt. The fear didn't vanish, but it shrank. I was no longer the woman waiting to be discarded. I was the woman making a plan. The strangest part? He still kissed me goodnight. Still rubbed my feet on the couch. Still texted me, "Miss you," when he worked late. I think he thought he was being kind. But kindness doesn't sound like silence. And it doesn't smell like lies. The day he left for his business trip, I packed him a bag. I even included the cologne I bought him 2 birthdays ago, the one he never wore unless he was trying to impress someone. He kissed me twice before he left. "Back Sunday," he said. "I'll be here," I replied. But I wouldn't. He left on a Friday morning. His suitcase rolled softly down the driveway, his phone already pressed to his ear before the car door closed. I watched from the window, fingers curled around the curtain. Not shaking. Not crying. Just watching. It was the last time he'd see me in that house. He just didn't know it yet. I'd already packed the night before. Quietly. One drawer at a time. No photos. No shared keepsakes. Just what was mine, what had always been mine. Clothes, documents, the old jewelry box from my mother. A single mug I loved. A few books with my handwriting in the margins. The rest I left. Let him keep the curated life. Let him explain the empty closet. By 10 a.m., I was gone. The rental I'd found was small, 1 bedroom, worn hardwood floors, walls painted a soft green that reminded me of eucalyptus. There was no view, no garden, no marble countertops. But when I shut the door behind me and slid the bolt, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. I sat on the floor with my phone and opened my notes. A timeline. A plan. A checklist of what came next. The lawyer appointment was scheduled for Monday. The P.O. box was active. The account now held $232,000. And no one, not even him, could touch it. That first night alone, I didn't cry. I expected to. But the tears didn't come. Instead, I turned on the radio, drank cheap wine straight from the bottle, and fell asleep on the floor in a pile of blankets. Not elegant. Not cinematic. But real. On Saturday, I drove back near the old neighborhood. Not to check on the house, I had no reason. I just wanted to feel what it meant to not belong somewhere anymore. It was strange how quickly that place had become foreign. Just another house with drawn curtains and trimmed hedges, like nothing was rotting inside. I didn't go closer. I didn't need to. He called that evening. I let it ring. Then again. Then a text. "Everything okay? Didn't hear from you today." The message didn't say, "I love you." Didn't say, "I miss you." Just concern, vague and impersonal, the kind you send when you want to keep control. I didn't reply. Sunday morning, I went to the market. Bought fruit I actually liked. Flowers that weren't part of our home aesthetic. I watched couples pass by, laughing, arguing, holding hands, and I didn't feel bitter. I just observed. There was a man selling second-hand books from the back of his van. I picked up a novel I used to love in college, one I'd told my husband about, but he never remembered. That felt symbolic somehow. I bought it. Read the first page while sipping coffee on a park bench. When I got back to the apartment, he'd called again. Twice. This time, he left a voicemail. His voice was calm, but under it, a thread of tension. "Hey, just checking in. Can you let me know you're okay? House feels weird without you. Call me." I replayed it once. Then deleted it. That night, I opened the envelope again, the one he'd slid under the door a week ago. "I'm sorry. I don't hate you." I studied the handwriting. Tried to trace the emotion behind it. But I couldn't feel anything. Not anger. Not forgiveness. Just distance. I tore the note in half and flushed it. No theatrics. Just closure. Monday came, and with it, the lawyer. Her office was tucked between a dentist and a yoga studio. Simple. Quiet. She listened carefully as I explained. I showed her the email I'd found. The financial prep I'd done. The names. The itinerary. She didn't flinch. "You were smart," she said. "Now let's make sure you stay protected." I signed papers. Not divorce papers, not yet. But paperwork that began drawing the line between his world and mine. When I got home, I found another text waiting. We need to talk when I get back. Please. I read it 3 times. Then I turned off my phone. The silence was thick that night. Not empty. Sacred. Like a new room inside myself I hadn't been allowed to enter before. I sat on the floor again. Crossed my legs. Breathed deep. And said out loud to no one. I survived you. It didn't sound angry. It sounded like truth. He came home to an empty house. I imagined it, the moment his suitcase bumped against the threshold, the flicker of confusion when he noticed the silence. The shoes missing from the hallway. My coat gone. The scent of my shampoo no longer in the air. I imagined the slow turn of his steps, walking room to room, calling out my name the first time casually. The second time with concern. And the third time with rising panic. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't there to be found. When my phone finally rang, Monday 8:17 p.m. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor of my new apartment, eating cereal straight from the box, my laptop open beside me. The screen lit up with his name. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. I said nothing at first. Only silence. He broke it. Lila? Where are you? His voice was half relief, half demand. I didn't give him either. I'm safe, I said. That's all you need to know. What the hell is going on? He asked, the calm cracking at the edges. I came home and, the closet's empty. The drawer. Are you okay? I'm fine. You just, left? You were planning to leave me, I said, flatly. I just moved first. Dead silence. Then, what are you talking about? The email, I said. Don't insult us both by pretending. I heard his breath catch. Then a long pause. A shuffle in the background. He was probably pacing. I'd seen it 100 times, his signature anxiety move. Lila, he said, voice low now. That wasn't what it looked like. It was, early stage. Hypothetical. I was just getting advice. I laughed. Quietly. You had dates. You had strategy. That's not hypothetical. That's execution. You're blowing this out of proportion. That stopped me cold. There it was, the shift. The control slipping through his hands. His instinct now was to belittle, to minimize. I wasn't surprised. But I was done playing that game. I've moved my money, I said, each word like a stone dropped into still water. I've started protecting myself. You're free to do whatever you planned. Jesus, Lila. No yelling, I said. Not anymore. I wasn't going to blindside you, he said quickly. I just didn't know how to talk about it yet. That's the thing, I said. You weren't supposed to talk. You were supposed to love me. And if something was broken, we fix it together. But instead, you made plans. Another silence. Then, a whisper. I didn't think you'd ever leave. I closed my eyes. Neither did I. After we hung up, I felt no satisfaction. No thrill. Just a strange, hollow ache, like the aftermath of an earthquake you saw coming but couldn't stop. He didn't call again that night. And I didn't expect him to. The next morning, a single email arrived from him. Subject, we should talk. I didn't open it. I forwarded it to my lawyer. That week, I started a new routine. I woke at sunrise. Made coffee. Opened all the windows. I worked longer hours, not to distract myself, but because focus was a kind of therapy. I took long walks in the evenings. I wrote in my notebook. I stopped checking the joint account. I didn't need to anymore. One night, I bumped into a neighbor in the stairwell. She was older, wearing a blue cardigan and carrying too many groceries. We spoke briefly, and she smiled at me, warm and kind. You just move in? She asked. Yes, I said. New start. She nodded knowingly. We all need one of those, sooner or later. By Friday, I finally replied to his email. Just one line. You were right. We should talk. Through attorneys. He responded within minutes, full of apologies, explanations, shock, regret. It didn't change anything. Because it wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about the planning. The deception. The fact that he was willing to unwrite me from his life before even telling me I'd stopped being part of it. I met my lawyer again that afternoon. We drafted the first documents. Divorce wasn't a word I wanted to say out loud, but it no longer terrified me. It was just another necessary truth. Like the fact that I deserved more than half-baked love and silent exits. He sent flowers. I didn't open the card. I donated them to the front desk of the building. One night, I opened the last drawer of my unpacked boxes and found our wedding photo. We were laughing, caught mid-smile, off-script. My veil was crooked, his tie was loose. We looked stupidly happy. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I folded the picture back into its frame and placed it face down in the drawer. Some things don't need to be burned. But they also don't need to be seen again. I signed the final documents on a Tuesday afternoon. The pen glided across the paper with ease, each stroke cutting deeper than any confrontation ever could. There was no drama. No courtroom. No theatrics. Just me, my lawyer, and the quiet rustling of legal pages that would officially end 13 years of our life together. No one teaches you how to divorce a person you once built your future around. But somehow, I learned. He didn't show up to the signing. He sent his attorney instead, with carefully typed comments and a request for discretion. The lawyer was polite, even kind in a distant way. But when I handed her the signed copies and looked her in the eye, I knew she saw it, the calm. The strength. The refusal to fall apart. There's a power in surviving what was meant to break you. That night, I took myself to dinner. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet little restaurant a few blocks from the apartment. I brought a book, ordered a glass of wine, and sat at a table for two like it was a table for one. And it was. For once, that didn't feel sad. It felt complete. The waiter smiled at me as he refilled my water. "Celebrating something?" he asked. I nodded. Freedom. Over the next few weeks, the world didn't change, but I did. I bought a new bed. Painted my kitchen a deep terracotta. Started cooking again, for no one but myself. I went for walks without checking the time. Left my phone on silent. Deleted the playlists that reminded me of him. Even my reflection looked different. Not younger. Not lighter. But clearer. I wasn't waiting for someone else to define my worth anymore. He tried to contact me a few more times. Emails. Messages. Once, even a voicemail where he sounded human. Regretful. "I never stopped loving you," he said. I didn't believe him. Not because he didn't mean it, maybe he did. But because loving someone while planning to leave them is not love. It's comfort. It's cowardice. And I'd lived in that fog long enough. One Sunday afternoon, I went back to the coastal trail we used to walk together. Alone this time. The wind was sharp, the ocean gray. I sat on a bench overlooking the cliffs, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. There was a time when this place had been sacred. A space where we held hands, talked about baby names, made stupid plans about growing old. Now it was just mine. I took a deep breath. Exhaled. Let it all go. I thought about everything I'd lost. Not just the man. Not just the marriage. But the version of me who once twisted herself into shapes to keep something alive that was already gone. That version was gone now. And in her place? Someone quieter. Stronger. Surer. I never wanted to be the kind of woman who needed revenge to heal. I didn't need him to fall apart. I just needed him out of my way. I went back to work with more focus than I'd had in years. My creativity returned. Clients noticed. I started building something of my own, a small design studio, just me and a laptop and the vision I'd put on pause for too long. It didn't make headlines. But it made me proud. One night, months after the papers were signed, I ran into an old friend at a bookstore. We hadn't seen each other in years. She looked at me, tilted her head, and said, "You look different." "I feel different," I replied. "Better?" I smiled. Real. I never told her the whole story. I didn't need to. Some truths are too intimate for small talk. Some victories don't need applause. The money I moved is still there. I haven't touched it. Not because I'm saving it for some future revenge fantasy. But because it represents something else now. Proof that I was capable of saving myself, quietly, strategically, without warning. That money was my shield. My escape route. My reminder. One evening, I stood in front of the mirror and said it aloud. I forgive you. Not to him. To myself. For the years I stayed. For the lies I believed. For the silence I endured. And then I said. I love you. To the woman staring back. And meant it. So no, this isn't a story about a woman scorned. It's not a tale of dramatic revenge, or secret lovers, or courtroom victories. It's a story of reclamation. Of one woman who looked betrayal in the face, and instead of shattering, quietly, calmly, completely, walked away. And never looked back. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.